How effective are ODA and foreign aid in promoting development? We will take the case studies of Tuvalu, Liberia, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Malawi. But first, what is foreign aid? Foreign aid is the international transfer of capital, goods, or services from a nation or international organization for the benefit of the receiving country and its population to fulfill rehabilitation, economic stabilization, or mutual defense. Aid can come in the form of military, economic, or emergency humanitarian aid. What is Official Development Assistance, or ODA? The nations of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, made up of the developed nations of the world, have committed to providing a certain level of development assistance to underdeveloped countries. This is called Official Development Assistance and is given by governments on certain concessional terms, usually as simple donations. Official Development Assistance is the official financing administered with the promotion of economic development and welfare in developing countries as its main objective, and where financial assistance is concessional in character with a grant element of at least 25%. By OECD agreement, ODA flows comprise contributions of donor government agencies at all levels, developing countries, and to multilateral institutions. It is given by governments through individual countries, international aid agencies through bilateral aid, or through multilateral institutions such as the World Bank, or through development charities such as Save the Children or Oxfam. So ODA needs to contain these three elements. First, undertaken by the official sector, which are official agencies, including state and local governments or their executive agencies. The second, with promotion of economic development and welfare as the main objective. And the third, at concessional financial terms, if a loan having a grant element of at least 25%. Tuvalu. Formerly the Ellice Islands, Tuvalu's first Polynesian settlers were probably Samoans or Tongans. The Ellice Islands became a British protectorate in 1892 and were annexed by Britain in 1915 to 1916 as part of the Gilbert and Ellice Islands colony. The Ellice Islands were separated from the Gilberts in 1975, given home rule, and renamed Tuvalu. Full independence was granted on September 30, 1978, but Tuvalu remained part of the Commonwealth. In 1979, the US gave Tuvalu 4 islands that had been US territory. In 1997, the government adopted a strong stance on the need to control emissions of greenhouse gases in order to ensure the survival of low-lying island nations, which are threatened by rising sea levels. Tuvalu's highest point is just 16 feet above sea level. In 2000, Tuvalu became a member of the United Nations. Tuvalu reportedly makes millions of dollars each year by leasing its highly marketable TV internet domain. Location and geography. Tuvalu consists of 9 small islands scattered over 500 square miles of the Western Pacific, just south of the equator. Surrounded by bodies of water and having scattered terrestrial land, Tuvalu experiences, more or less, tropical weather patterns similar to most Southeast Asian countries. The country is vulnerable to powerful hurricanes and devastating storm surges. Tuvalu has a population of around 10,211 as of 2017. Tuvalu's natural resources and industries. It relies on tourism, fishing, and copra. It also relies heavily on its public service sector, as 15% of the male population work as seamen aboard transport and commercial sea vessels. It gains digital income through its strong TV internet domain. Development concerns of Tuvalu. With a sparsely distributed population and geography, there is a shortage in Tuvalu's labor and capital. Its small domestic market is weak and lacks potential for economies of scale and is further crippled by limited natural resources, lack in major investments, and a limited social and cultural system that weakens understanding of business concepts. There is growing international competition in tourism and investment. Large and continuous trade imbalance coupled with low productivity of a large public sector and pervasive government ownership of enterprise activities. And also, the presence of weak fiscal situation and high tax rates and import duties due to an underdeveloped financial system and very limited land reform. The amount of foreign aid Tuvalu receives. The ODA received is $26,690,000, while the amount of US aid received is around $4.2 million. The amount of Australian aid Tuvalu receives is at $10.2 million. Tuvalu is heavily aided by Australia due to its British origin. Since 2012, Tuvalu has undertaken important economic reforms and has increased public financial management practices and transparency accountability of the government services. Since 2012, Australia has also continuously supported the government of Tuvalu to maintain a 60,000 liter desalination plant gifted by Australia to help Tuvalu respond to a series of drought in that year. In 2014 to 2015, we assisted Tuvalu to strengthen the quality of basic education by support training of 180 teachers in school planning, data collection and analysis, and teacher competency framework. Australia also supported Tuvalu to strengthen early grade literacy and to reform school management. Liberia, Africa's first republic. Liberia was founded in 1822 as a result of the efforts of the American Colonization Society to settle freed American slaves in West Africa. The society contended that the emigration of blacks to Africa was an answer to the problem of slavery and the incompatibility of races. Over the course of 40 years, about 12,000 slaves were voluntarily relocated. Originally called Monrovia, the colony became the free and independent Republic of Liberia in 1847. The government of Africa's first republic was modeled after that of the United States, and Joseph Jenkins Roberts of Virginia was elected the first president. Ironically, Liberia's constitution denied indigenous Liberians equal to the lighter-skinned American immigrants and their descendants. After 1920, considerable progress was made towards opening up the interior of the country, a process that facilitated by the 1951 establishment of a 43-mile railroad to Bomi Hills from Monrovia. Location and geography. Liberia is a West African country that is roughly the size of the US state of Tennessee. It lies on the North Atlantic coast of Africa and is bordered by Guinea to the north, the Ivory Coast to the east, and Sierra Leone to the northwest. Liberia has a total area of roughly 111,000 kilometers. However, only 579 kilometers of which is coastline. Of its total area, roughly 96,000 kilometers is island. Only 3.43% of this land is arable. The remainder is composed of rivers, lakes, and roughly 200 claimed nautical miles of the Atlantic Ocean off the country's southwest coast. Liberia has a population of 4,780,694 as of March 2016. Liberia's natural resources and industries. It is rich in natural resources, especially iron ore, gold, diamonds, timber, and rubber. Major revenue in GDP production comes from the mining industry but was traditionally an agriculture-based economy. There is presence of a relatively modest oil production sector. Provisions of power is held by only one corporation, which is the Liberia Electricity Corporation. So the development concerns of Liberia are: the country is in dire need of constitutional reforms that would allow for more social, political, and economic participation and growth. Centralization of Liberian government limits humanitarian rights and hampers the level of civil service and education. Lack of revenue sources for the local government, thus leading to a lack of infrastructural development. The amount of foreign aid Liberia receives. Amount of foreign aid Liberia receives. It receives the amount in US aid of $247.9 million and a total ODA amount of $534,220,000. Foreign aid assistance has led to an improvement in basic services, including healthcare and sanitation capabilities. Development of basic infrastructures as a result of more investment opportunities brought about by the intervention of foreign aid allows women to participate more in society and improves gender equality and social stability.
The Marshall Islands, east of the Carolines, are divided into two chains. The Western Uralic Group, including the atolls Haluit, Kwajalein, Otho, Bikini, and Eniwetok. In the eastern Orata group, including the atolls Mili, Majuro, Malulep, Wacha, and Likip. The islands are of coral reef types and rise only a few feet above sea level. The Marshall Islands comprise an area slightly larger than Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. Location and geography. Located in the northern Pacific, the Marshall Islands consist of 24 low-lying coral atolls comprising 1,156 individual islands and islets. The general landscape is sandy as most of these islands rise only a few feet above sea level, with the highest point being an unnamed hill on Likip which peaks at only 32 feet. With a population of 52,634. Natural resources and industries. Production of copra, tuna processing, tourism, craft items from seashells, wood, and pearls. Main resources and exports are coconut products, marine products, and deep seabed minerals. Development concerns. Adverse changes in climate threaten the survival of the Marshall Islands. Changes in the environment can cause detrimental effects on the industries and health of the Marshall Island inhabitants. The islands have spent years under successive foreign powers and serve as a front line for arms development. Years of being under the influence of foreign powers have ripped the people of the Marshall Islands from their roots. There's a need to restore the people's natural sense of community. Amount of foreign aid received. USAID received $73 million. Australia aid $12 million, and ODA received at $93,770,000. Australia is working with RMI and the Asia Development Bank to establish an integrated water supply and sanitation system on the island of Ibeyi, aiming to significantly improve the health, social, and economic situation for Ibeyi residents. Australia is providing a Pacific Technical Assistance Mechanism advisor to the Ministry of Education in the Marshall Islands to provide technical assistance in the development of policies and procedures to support the introduction of a new public school system in the Marshall Islands, in accordance with recent charges to the RMI governance legislation. Australia is working to address issues of gender equality in RMI by funding priority initiatives under the Pacific Women Shaping Pacific Development RMI Country Plan 2014 to 2016. Micronesia. The Caroline Islands are an expansively dispersed archipelago in the western Pacific Ocean. The archipelagic group became part of a United Nations Trust territory under the administration of the United States of America following World War II. The four island groups in the Eastern Caroline Islands adopted their own constitution in 1979 and has been then known as the Federated States of Micronesia. Micronesian independence came in 1986 under a Compact of Free Association with the USA, which was amended and renewed in 2004. Location and geography. Micronesia is found in Oceania. It's an island group in the North Pacific Ocean, about 3/4 of the way from Hawaii to Indonesia. They have tropical weather with heavy year-round rainfall, especially in the eastern islands, located on the southern edge of the typhoon belt, which occasionally severe damage. Natural resources and industries. Timber, marine products, and deep seabed minerals. Tourism, construction, specialized aquaculture, and craft items. Development concerns. Among the country's largest development concerns are large-scale unemployment and the fact that 2/3 of the labor force are employed by the government. With limited resources, there's overfishing and subsistence farming and few valuable mineral resources. According to the Compact of Free Association, assistance provided by the U.S. comprises 58% of the Micronesian government's development funds. The Micronesian government employs 2/3 of the adult working population. The island has very few commercially valuable mineral deposits. The potential for generating economic revenue through tourism is stifled due to its isolation. Lack of adequate facilities and limited internal air and water transportation also hinders its development. Amount of foreign aid received. U.S. aid received $161 million. Australian aid $4.2 million, and ODA received $142,980,000. Under the terms of the original compact agreement, the U.S. was set to provide $1.3 billion in grants and aid from 1986 to 2001. The U.S. and the Federated States of Micronesia parlayed an amended second compact agreement in 2002 to 2003 that took effect in 2004. The amended compact runs from a 20-year period until 2023. In the span of 20 years, the United States is under agreement to disburse roughly $2.1 billion to the Federated States of Micronesia. The amended compact also develops a trust fund for the Federated States of Micronesia that should provide a sustainable income stream for beyond 2024 when the U.S. compact grants will stop arriving. Malawi. Established in 1981, the British Protectorate Nyasaland became known as the independent state of Malawi in 1964. The African nation faces population growth, increasing pressure on agricultural lands, corruption, and the rampant presence of HIV and AIDS pose major problems for Malawi and its people. Found in southern Africa, east of Zambia, west and north of Mozambique, it's landlocked. Lake Nyasa, some 580 kilometers long, is the country's most prominent feature. It contains more fish species than any other lake on Earth, with a population of 17,964,697 people. Natural resources and industries include tobacco, tea, sugar, sawmill products, cement, and other consumer goods. Uranium, coal, and bauxite, and limestone. Development concerns. The Malawian government faces many challenges, including developing a market economy. Currently, Malawi is ranked 9th in the world as the country with the most HIV possible people at birth. There is a need for improving educational facilities, addressing environmental problems, and overall improving infrastructure in the country. In October 2013, the African Development Bank, the IMF, several European countries, and the US indefinitely froze $150 million in direct budgetary support in response to a high-level corruption scandal called Cashgate. Citing a lack of trust in the government's financial management system and civil service, most of the frozen donor funds, which accounted for 40% of the budget, has been channeled through non-government organizations in the country. Amount of foreign aid received. U.S. aid $571 million, UK aid £113 million, and official development assistance received at $1,125,880,000. The economy depends on substantial inflows of economic assistance from the IMF, the World Bank, and individual donor nations. In 2006, Malawi was approved for relief under the Heavily Indebted Poor Countries Program. Between 2005 and 2009, Malawi's government exhibited improved financial discipline under the guidance of Finance Minister Godal Gondwe and signed a 3-year IMF poverty reduction and growth facility worth $56 million. For Malawi, almost 5 million of its 13 million people used to need emergency food aid. However, after the government changed policy and subsided the fertilizer and seeds were introduced, farmers produced record-breaking corn harvests in 2006 and 2007 as production leaped to 3.4 million in 2007 from 1.2 million in 2005, making Malawi a major food exporter.
Based from our report, what then are the benefits or setbacks of foreign aid? The pros of foreign aid are: supporters of foreign aid posit that if rich countries will work hand in hand to help developing and poverty-stricken countries, this can help solve the problem of impoverished nations, with millions of families living below poverty lines. Contributing in any way through money, trainings, and medical assistance can promote equality and the better lives of other people. Giving foreign aid is between two nations, and this humanitarian activity is not only a good thing for the country receiving help, but also to the giver of financial aid. By helping other countries, diplomatic relations will be nurtured. Many organizations are helping in the dissemination of information about transnational problems like drugs and HIV. The International Narcotics Control Program sets aside funds to help fight drug problems in other countries. And last, foreign aid helps stabilize governments and markets. By providing foreign aid, balance between costs can be maintained given the interconnectedness of global systems.
The cons include political instability in recipient nations can lead to aid being squandered and not being spent for the benefit of the citizens. For instance, the Cashgate scandal in Malawi because of large corruption allegations in the administration. Overdependence on aid can cause artificial growth that is dependent on the aid coming in. For instance, in the Federated States of Micronesia, 58% of the government budget is funded by US aid, and two-thirds of the labor force is employed by the government.